I left my ex-wife after 10 years of dead bedroom syndrome. I left when my youngest son was 18, and I didn't hide my happiness while doing it. I threw a ditch the witch party, and I wake up every day since then with a smile. My kids were not thrilled at this and stopped talking to me. I decided not to make amends with them or share my side of the story because I had done my part. I was there till they went to college. If they needed me, all they had to do was ask. But I'm 46 and plan to fill my life with as much joy and happiness as possible. I don't have enough time left to try to convince my kids not to hate me. 1 year ago, I asked for a divorce, and 2 days later, I met a woman online. My plan was to remain casual. That didn't plan out as I had planned, because this woman became my girlfriend pretty fast. My ex has been feeding lies into my kids' minds that I left her for my girlfriend and that I was already cheating on her. My daughter, who's the oldest, started messaging my girlfriend on Instagram, saying nasty things to her and saying how she's a homewrecker. I asked my daughter to meet me and talk to me directly instead of harassing my girlfriend. I bought her dinner and told her that I never cheated on her mother. Honestly, I regret that. I should have cheated on her. I wasted my time suffering. I told her about the dead bedroom and how she didn't put the effort into our relationship. She's 22, so I think she can handle it. She asked me why I hadn't left her mother before, and I told her I had this notion that I should ride it out until the kids were 18. I thought that was the right thing to do, but I'm not sure anymore. I do know that I don't want to think about it. I want to look forward to my future, and if she wants to hate me, she's free to do so. I don't have any plans to convince her otherwise. I want to spend the rest of my life with people who want to be with me. I don't have any plans to convince others to be with me, even if they are my own kids. So if she wants to spend time with me, my doors are always open for her and her brother, but she can't harass the woman who makes me happy. If she has so much problem with her, then we should keep our distance. My daughter asked me to give her proof that I only started dating my girlfriend after separation, and I showed her my messages. It took her about a month to process it. She eventually apologized to my girlfriend, and we all spent time together on New Year's Eve. As my daughter got to know my girlfriend, she understood how cool she was. They're bonding very well. My ex raged when she learned that my daughter spent time with my girlfriend. My daughter told her about what I said and told her that she doesn't blame me anymore and wants to move on. Now my ex is up my butt, sending me nasty messages about how I shouldn't have told our daughter about our intimate life, how I'm disgusting, etc., etc. Am I the idiot for telling my daughter about the real reason for my divorce? Dude, you're not the idiot for this particular truth. But besides that, you sound like a major one. Dumping your kids the minute they turn 18 because you did your part, as if it didn't even cross your mind that you're a parent for life because you love your kids and want to watch them turn into thriving adults. Man, I honestly think that this is a great example of why you shouldn't stick it out for the kids. I have to wonder how much of this attitude is a result of staying for them and building up resentment because of that. Agreed. I support him in correcting the lies, but I don't support the ditch the witch party and dating 2 days after serving divorce papers. After waiting 18 years for the kids, OP couldn't even attempt to make the transition smoother for them? Of course it looked like he cheated. He even stated that he wished he did. Why did you stay for the kids when you don't seem to care about your kids? He probably waited for his kids to turn 18 so he didn't have to pay child support. It was never for the kids. It was to not pay child support. With his attitude now, I cannot imagine he was a very involved parent. Maybe it's no surprise his wife didn't want to sleep with him if he's the kind of person to shove it in his kids' faces that he hates their mom, and he's thrilled to be without her while they're still processing their grief at the divorce. I mean, the ditch the witch party? That's where I lost all sympathy for this guy. It's perfectly possible to get divorced while still respecting the mother of your children, at least to your kids' faces. This guy sounds like a major league idiot. My in-laws want their only child, my wife Diana, to start pumping out grandchildren. Diana's 28 and is just finishing her PhD. She wants to establish a career before we start a family. My in-laws know how much I make, and they know we could live comfortably off of my earnings. That isn't what Diana wants. She's worked her butt off to get where she is, and she wants to reap the rewards of her hard work. She also says that once she's working, I can cut back on my hours. I'm a welder and relax a little. I've been working since I was 15, so literally half my life. I make a very good living in return for a lot of hard work. I've supported Diana in her education. She will graduate without student loans. We have a house. She has a good car. We have a good life. We want a few more years alone before we start our family. Over the latest family gathering, in-laws wouldn't drop it. I finally snapped. I said that if they wanted grandchildren, then they could reimburse us for her education. They could further pay her the salary she'd be giving up. When she returned to work, they could pay her the difference between what she could be earning and her entry-level position. They could pay for a nanny so my wife could work, or they could back off and wait for us to be ready. They said they couldn't afford all that. I asked them how they expected us to afford it. I said that if it was really what they wanted, they could just give her the inheritance coming her way now instead of later. They got offended and said it wasn't hers until they no longer needed it. Diana asked me to drop it. She's tried dozens of times to explain why we're waiting to her parents. They ignore her. They ignore what we want for our lives. They've been very cold since that get-together. They seem to think I was a rude idiot for pointing out the cost of what they were asking for. Most of her family agreed that I went too far in asking them to pay if they want a grandchild now instead of later. Not the idiot. They must be reminded in very strong terms that it's none of their business. They have absolutely no say whatsoever, and when you both choose to procreate, stop being nice about it. They need to be put in their proper place. If they want a new baby around, their option is to adopt. That's where they have a say. Otherwise, they need to shut up and back all the way off. These people don't respect their daughter's autonomous choices regarding her life. So why would you suggest they adopt children whom they also will not respect? Dude, let your wife handle her family. What you said was tacky and classless. Everyone's the idiot here. They're pushing and giving you unsolicited opinions about your married life, and both of you for not just having clear boundaries and not shutting it down straight up. Instead, you got into a stupid back and forth about money. Their finances are none of your business, and your reproductive tract is none of their business. So why engage like that? You both need to practice firm boundaries now if you're even considering having kids. My brother, a young teen, and I, a teen male, lost our dad 10 years ago. Mom married Jared 6 years ago, and after about a year, my mom asked us if we would be okay with Jared adopting us and maybe changing your last name to his or adding his as a hyphenated last name. I said no, and my brother followed. My mom decided we should discuss it some more in family therapy, and we went for a few months. Then we had no therapy when stuff closed down, and then we returned when in-office therapy was back on the table. Throughout the stay-in-place order, my mom would ask us about our feelings and if we were more open to the idea. Recently, my mom decided to try the divide and conquer way, since the therapist mentioned that my brother said no because I was. She tried talking to my brother, and he was adamant he would say no as long as I was saying no. Mom then sat me down and asked why I was saying no. She told me she had a few very practical reasons to want the adoption to happen, including protection for us if she were to die, so we could stay with her husband. I asked her if that was because she knew I would want my extended family to fight for custody to live with them, but because she doesn't like them, she wouldn't want that and knew my decision would carry some more weight unless I were adopted first. She denied it initially, but then said yes. She then asked me why I was against the adoption. I told her I didn't want another legal dad and didn't want the protection being adopted would offer. She then told me about my brother saying no because I was saying no, and she wanted me to agree so he would change his mind. I told her that wouldn't happen and that nothing she said would change my mind. She asked me to encourage him at least to be adopted, and I told her I would not. I did speak to my brother anyway, and he said he doesn't want to do it if I'm not, and it would feel weird to him to be adopted by Jared when I'm not. He doesn't remember our dad, so the attachment isn't a reason for him like it is for me. I told him I wouldn't be mad at him if he said yeah. He said he knew that, but still. Mom and Jared sat me down and asked me again to say yes, so he could adopt my brother, and once again I said no. Mom started to cry, and she got really angry with me. Jared said I was at the age where I could be more mature and compromise on this. He told me I might not love him, but surely I don't hate him so much that I would rather end up in foster care than in his care if Mom died. He said I'm putting my brother at risk. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. Weird they don't need any of this in case something happens to your mom. It's probably already in her will. Your last name has no bearing on custody plans in case of emergency. No judge is going to chuck you in foster care if you have family who can take you. And you're old enough that you could say to a judge where you want to go. Talk to your family. And is there a grandparent or aunt who your mom listens to who can tell her to knock it off? Maybe a friend? Therapists shouldn't be helping her to try to manipulate you. This doesn't sound like real therapy. If you want real therapy, see if you can access those resources through school. I was manipulated into adoption as a child. It was ugly all around, but my mother threatened my bio dad with all sorts of things and refused to let him see me. She got remarried, escalated her threats, and he severed his parental rights per her request so a new spouse could adopt me. She told me we couldn't be a family if new dad didn't adopt me, and a few other things. Almost 40 years later, it still angers me to think about it, and I regret it bitterly. Thanks to her, I have no relationship with my bio dad or new dad. The most important reason not to be adopted is that you're feeling unsure, and you should always trust your gut feelings, especially since you're being manipulated and misled and being used as a tool to manipulate someone else. Build up a relationship with your relatives if you haven't already, dad's side, mom's side, whoever you can find, and tell Jared he's at an age where he should be mature enough not to throw a fit when he doesn't get what he wants. I, 37 female, am married with 2 kids, and I've been dealing for the past 2 months with all these uncomfortable discussions around who takes what after our father passed away some months ago. My sister, 28, is recently married and is proceeding to take over the sole family house that we ever owned. My mother's still alive and living in that house. According to my father's latest statements, and because he didn't manage to give my sister the same amount of money as he did to me, 55k euros, he wanted the family house to go to her, since he always believed it was worth around the same amount. However, this is not the case, as it's valued at 80k euros. Last week, I spoke to my mother about this, telling her that either way I see it, financially or sentimentally, I feel left out, and I'd like them to consider me taking a small portion, a fifth or a fourth, so that I can have something for my parents as well. Am I the idiot for wanting to discuss this with my sister, who's a step away from signing papers? Although I also must consent so that my portion goes to her. I'm stuck and don't know how to approach this to avoid frustration and possibly bitter feelings. On top of that, my dear hubby is threatening me with a divorce if I don't step up and claim what's rightfully mine. I hate him for that, as it's none of his business, and the money I got from my parents was to finish his house, get married, etc. You got hard cash. She got the house. What if property prices went down? Would you have paid her the difference so everything could be fair? I doubt it. It just so happens that prices increased from your dad's original estimate. Such is life. Your husband is a greedy pig. If he's threatening you with divorce over a matter that's not his business, you've made the wrong choice in partner. Yeah, so 55,000 euros, which your father believed represented the value of the house and therefore left to you in cash, doesn't count as something from your parents. 55k is a lot of money, especially before the last big inflation. Your dad's wishes are clear. He believed that he was leaving you and your sister equal value from his estate. End of. You are the idiot here. And your husband? Well, I have no words. Excellent point. Just to add to that, as we don't know when OP was given the money, a quick search shows that $55K in 2010 is worth approximately $78K today. So Dad's will should be upheld and would equate to the same, minus the legal expenses. In addition, the younger sister and her family will probably take responsibility for their aging mother, providing care and support for her in her later years. This is a huge contribution to make. If the husband's going to divorce OP over a few thousand euros, well, that says a lot. Lady, you've had $55K so far from your father. It's a bit of a stretch to say you feel left out. And what's happening to your poor mother? Has she been left anything? It's a bit insensitive to complain you haven't quite had enough money yet, though you've had $55K, if she's been left empty-handed. This is grasping behavior. If you're willing to screw over your sister and mother, go ahead, but don't be upset if she doesn't want much to do with you afterward. My girlfriend and I made plans this weekend to go on a double date with my friend and his girlfriend. We have planned this for a while, and I paid for our travel cost and the hotel room for the night. Last weekend, my girlfriend had plans to go out with colleagues for a meal and drinks. She said she wouldn't be out too late, and she'd only have a couple of drinks after the meal. She ended up staying out all night, which was fine, but the following morning she said she spent more than she expected and now could no longer afford the double date. She said I'd have to pay for everything, or we'd have to cancel because she couldn't afford it. I was annoyed because she had known about the plans for weeks and should have budgeted for it. I told her she should have returned when she said she would, instead of staying out, and then we wouldn't have this problem. She just said she didn't plan it, but that no one else was leaving, and people wanted her to stay. So she stayed. I just said she should have thought about our other plans and not expect me to pay for her night because she ignored the fact that we'd made plans. She said that that was unfair, and I was wrong for being angry with her. I told her how crappy it was going to look canceling now, just because she decided her colleagues were more important and refused to say no to them. She just repeated that I was unfair and that we didn't have to cancel if I paid for her share of the night. I refused and I told her I could lend her money and she could pay me back, but I wasn't paying for her just because she went over budget at the work event. She refused the offer of me lending her money and said I was being an idiot for starting an argument. Am I the idiot for refusing to pay for everything for the entire night? Not the idiot. She knew what she was doing and fully expected you to pay for the double date. She's surprised you said no and is gaslighting you. You didn't start a fight. She's solely responsible for this situation, for example. She probably thinks she can still manipulate you into paying for her. I'm sorry, but you aren't a priority to her, and she feels entitled to your money. I'm not surprised. I'm pretty sure it's a relationship test that's doing the rounds. How does he react to you being out all night? Will he treat you to the planned date afterward? Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok are doing an actual number on relationships. Have you seen the pomegranate one? People are going utterly bonkers. OP, take some advice from an old guy and do not get into the habit of lending or borrowing from your partner, because if the loan doesn't get repaid, either way, it's an ongoing sore spot or it's an argument. Between partners, either just give the money to each other or don't. My 2 cents.